All right, today we are diving into a really fascinating character study, and we're going to do it through a pretty powerful philosophical lens. We're going to break down a deep internal conflict and see how a 19th century German philosopher actually gives us the key to unlock the whole thing.
So let's meet our subject, Risa Wakatsuki. On the surface, she is the absolute pinnacle of her profession. She's a high-ranking exorcist inquisitor, and her whole identity is wrapped up in precision and tactical control. Get this. With her keen eye, she can perfectly mimic any move she sees. She is the literal definition of calculated perfection.
But here's the kicker, the central paradox that really defines her entire being. Despite all these incredible, precise abilities, the one thing she is most deeply ashamed of is her own immense raw power. And that contradiction is what we're here to explore.
And here it is, her internal war laid out for us to see. On one side, you've got the ideals she's so proud of, the surgical mimicry, the tactical control, the professional success. But on the other side, well, that's the reality she hates, these crude elemental bombs, this raw impulsive force. To her, every time she has to use that power, it's not a victory, it's a personal failure, a source of incredible shame.
Okay, so how do we even begin to make sense of this? To really get to the bottom of Risa's struggle, we need a totally new lens. And we're going to find it in the philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, which you'll see is going to completely reframe her entire story. So, using Schopenhauer's ideas, we're going to start peeling back the layers of her identity. We're going to separate what she thinks she is from what she truly is at a much, much deeper level. First up, we have this concept that Schopenhauer borrowed from Eastern philosophy. He called it the world as representation, but you might know it as the veil of Maya. Now, the basic idea here is that the world we perceive, our jobs, our status, even the chair you're sitting on, isn't the real reality. It's all a subjective illusion, a mental story we tell ourselves that hides a deeper truth. And Risa is absolutely trapped behind this veil. Her entire self-worth, everything she's proud of, is built on these illusions. Her rank as an inquisitor, her persona as a teacher, her mastery of mimicry. She's fundamentally mistaking this representation, this mask, for her true self. So what's behind the veil? Schopenhauer called it the will. And we're not talking about personal willpower here. This is a fundamental, blind, irrational life force that drives everything in the universe. It's this chaotic, striving, unstoppable energy that's the true engine of all existence. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the whole hierarchy gets flipped on its head. According to Schopenhauer, the intellect, the very thing Risa prizes the most, her tactical genius, it's not the master. No way. It's just a servant, a tool that this primal will created to help it achieve its own blind, irrational goals.
And this is the crucial takeaway. Her explosive powers, that spirit heat that builds up, those crude elemental bombs she's so ashamed of, those are the most direct, the most honest expression of this fundamental reality. That's the will, the real her, breaking through the illusion of her controlled intellectual self.
So where does this leave her? Well, this new understanding actually opens up a path for her. Let's explore how she can take her greatest source of shame and transform it into a source of enlightenment and true power.
Schopenhauer had this kind of bleak view of life as a pendulum, just constantly swinging between the pain of wanting something and the boredom of getting it. For Risa, that's not just a metaphor. This striving is a literal physical buildup of volatile energy inside her body. From her point of view, these rituals she performs in the forest are just a desperate, shameful chore. This spirit heat builds and builds, threatening to literally detonate her soul. So she has to sneak away, abandon her controlled persona, and just unleash these violent explosions to survive. But if we look at this through that Schopenhauerian lens, the whole ritual transforms. It stops being a desperate act of venting and becomes something more like a meditation. In these moments, she has a chance to detach from her ego, to just observe the raw, impersonal power of the will, without judgment, without shame, just watching it happen. This new perspective all comes to a head in the story's climax, and it completely changes the meaning of her final, devastating act. Trust me, it is not what it looks like on the surface. So, she stumbles upon this scene of absolute chaos. Her own manipulative students, the ones who betrayed her, are being torn apart by this primal monster. Now, on the surface, this looks like the perfect setup for some epic revenge, right? But is that what's really going on here? With this new philosophical framework, she sees right past the individual forms. She doesn't see students and monster anymore. She sees the horrifying truth. It's all just the same, irrational blind will in a pointless conflict with itself. It's just devouring itself.
And that means her final, massive explosion is not an act of personal anger. It's not revenge. It's an act of philosophical resignation. She's simply quieting that specific, violent eruption of the will. It's almost like she's putting out a chaotic fire.
This is her moment of true clarity. That cold, resigned look on her face, that isn't bitterness, it's acceptance. She finally understands that her raw, explosive nature isn't some shameful flaw. No, it is the most honest part of her being, and it's the ultimate tool she has to bring a little bit of quiet to a chaotic world.
And that really leaves us with a final question to chew on. Risa's entire journey was about tearing down a carefully built identity to accept a deeper, messier truth. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What happens when we look beyond the refined masks that we all wear and acknowledge the raw, striving will that's inside each of us?